welcome to another Biddle on Saturday, October 26th, 2019. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Doing great.
Fantastic.
Doing fantastic.
Very well,
Thank you.
All right, so
Awesome. Happy Saturday, everyone.
we have
Thank
some
you, Jill.
awesome people in here tonight, just saying. Jill has made it from, she usually only gets here for Biddle Europe. Mitchell finally made it in here. It's fabulous. We got Derek from the start and all of our regulars. I love it.
Yay.
All right, so somebody, okay. Can we get a confirmation from chat saying we're sound? And
it sounded good to me when I was listening back a minute ago.
all right. So we
That
have
sounds fine.
been trying Netrunner for the last 2 weeks. And I know the biggest thing to try right now is Ubuntu's, but we're still trying Netrunner anyway. So this is our final week. We're going to give our final thoughts on it. We are going to probably skip around to the people that didn't get a chance to talk about it last week. And then we will allow those people that did talk last week give maybe, final. All right. So PZ was not here last week, and we're going to get all the details of why he wasn't here last week later. But
Yay.
PZ, did you have a chance to try out Netrunner?
I did, and I got to Netrunner before you gave the message that the rolling release was going to be discontinued. And just as well, because despite it being a Debian base, I could not get to the live USB. I tried all of the tricks that work with Antix and MX. I've tried all of those tricks that I've learned over the years to get NVIDIA working on a live USB, but for me it was a complete loss this time around. So all I can say is that from my previous experience of Netrunner, it was always just a nice variant. I think on the old days it used to be based upon Ubuntu, and then they changed to Manjaro. And I think Nate hit upon it last week, because I did watch the show even though I wasn't here, that they take the KDE settings and they give them their own unique twist. And sometimes it can make it easier for people, and sometimes it can make it a little more difficult for people. Strangely enough, back in the old days, for me, it was great, because I always used to be a bit of a headache learning KDE. But as I'm becoming more of a KDE fanboy, I actually prefer stock KDE and sort it out myself. So I found trying to find some of the things on the rolling release a little more tricky. But I've always liked their theming. I just think they bring something extra to it. And I don't know whether that's because it's an actual company behind it and not just a group of enthusiasts. But yeah, I mean, if I could have got it working, I would have loved to have tested it. But unfortunately, for me, it just turns into a small next, because I did have fond memories of it when I used to run it.
Well, I think that's a pretty fair statement. There have been people that I've noticed in the Telegram group that have had trouble installing it this week, but we'll get to their opinions. Nate, you went last week, so we will probably get back to you for your final summation, whatever you want to call it.
You got it.
I don't know. Something.
You got it.
Your final thoughts.
I'm here for you, Rocco.
Thank you.
Whatever you want.
Yay.
Derek.
I have not tried. Oops, sorry.
Oh, yeah, two Derek, sorry. I didn't try Netrunner though, so don't worry about me.
That's what I forgot.
All right. The other Derek. Did you try Netrunner?
I haven't tried it either. Sorry.
All right, Jill,
Derek's
bail me
not
out
having
here.
a good show.
Okay. Okay. I tried it and really enjoyed it. I tried a Netrunner 19.08 Indigo, and I really liked that Plasma. It's a very, very minimal version of Plasma without all the bells and whistles, so you can configure it yourself, like Zeb was saying. And I thought it had a really nice theme, and actually was really happy that it includes lots of multimedia apps, including the GIMP, Inkscape, Kdenlive, Krita, and Steam. And they even ran well on the live CD, on the live USB. So that was really awesome, even before I installed it. And actually, it's kind of funny because I'd played with Netrunner a while back ago, but I think this one has really It's a really nice Debian derivative, and I'm actually liking it just about as much as the GRML derivative, which is a power user derivative of Debian that I've always loved, and a sysadmin version. But this is a close second for as far as Debian goes, because usually I just install vanilla Debian on everything. So I was really happy with it. I didn't have any issues on a ThinkPad Edge with an AMD GPU. So
Now,
it's a
did you
test machine.
notice still the settings at all being changed a little bit, or did that not even come across?
No, and I know Zeb was having problems with NVIDIA. For on the AMD, it was fine, but I haven't tried it on one of my NVIDIA machines. Hmm.
Well, I think it was only a problem for me because I've got this new RTX cards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when I was using it
Yeah.
before, I was on a 1070 and it worked fine, and
Yeah.
all the distros worked fine. So I'm just waiting for Nuvo to catch up slightly. They're a little bit behind on the new
Yeah.
cards. Yeah.
And I was testing on an old machine. It's just one of my ThinkPads.
Mhm.
I'm like, let's get it
Excellent.
on here.
Cool. Well, thanks very much indeed for that. Bash, did you get a chance to try it?
No, I've been working on other projects.
Okay. It's moving swiftly on to Peter. Did you get a chance to try it?
Hey, Zeb. Actually, I didn't watch last week's show, so I'm not sure how well people got it installed or not last week. But you mentioned it didn't get installed. I've heard Steve say it didn't get installed. Sorry to say, I've installed it on 2 machines. No problem whatsoever. Alienware M15X laptop, and behind me the Dell Optiplex 755. Both installed fine, went to live fine, and runs well. Debian with KDE, not much else to say.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you, Peter. Mitchell, welcome.
Hello. How's my audio?
You sound fantastic.
All right. Yeah, Netrunner. I did try Netrunner, and I had very high hopes for Netrunner because I wanted to try some more KDE. I usually do GNOME, and I thought it'd be fun to take a little vacation into KDE land. And I saw on the website that Netrunner is designed for netbooks, and I've got a lot of extra netbooks lying around, and so I tried to install it. It took about 3 tries. I had some hiccups along the way installing it, and my goal was to use it as a daily driver for 2 weeks, and I did not last very long with Netrunner. I was not too impressed by it. It was very slow, and there's all these little quality of life issues that kept popping up. Aesthetically, the red cursor immediately threw me off, and I
As it
usually
did
like,
others.
yes, it didn't. I was trying to figure out what the devs were going for because I can't see what the use case is, and if I can just install vanilla Debian or just like Arch with KDE or anything with KDE. I tried it on a Celeron at first, and it was very laggy. And I thought maybe, I'll try it on i3 instead. And the i3 did perform better, but there were all these little issues with the software was a bit dated, but that's to be expected, I think. And the ESR Firefox version gave me some issues as well. The Wi-Fi gave me some issues. And after about 45 minutes, I was done. I was not feeling it because I don't know why I would want to use Netrunner as opposed to just like straight vanilla Debian. And yeah, that was my experience.
All right. Well, I'm glad that you gave it a solid try. It wasn't like you gave up right away. So, and that's interesting. I wasn't aware. I mean, it kind of makes sense from the name that it's for netbooks. But.
Yeah.
I like the name. I really do. The name Netrunner, it hit me like that's a cool name. It's not some like weird Linux name that I can't pronounce. Like, it's fun, it's modern, it sounds fast.
And you
But
got the sci-fi tie-in with like, Blade Runner and
yeah.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
it didn't do it for me. I don't know what. It just not my cup of tea.
Well, you know what? That's why we have so many choices available to us.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So, Tony, sir, did you get a chance to take a look?
Unfortunately not, due to the fact that the testing laptop battery was almost flat and I haven't been able to locate the charger until
Oops.
earlier today, where it suddenly appeared out of the box. So once it's charged up, I should be ready to go on the next challenge.
So you should
Fair
have the
enough.
next challenge installed by the end of the show, right?
Not with
waiting.
my
He's
internet speed. This internet speed is a lot slower than the previous one, so that's not likely to happen.
All right. Joe, did you get a chance to try Netrunner?
I did. I didn't stay on it. I contrary to everybody else, I didn't have any install issues. I was actually able to run it in the VM initially, just to take like I always do, initial look. I loaded it on my test laptop. I took it off and forgot to save my notes, and away they went. So I was glad that Mitchell mentioned about the cursor, because I couldn't remember. There was one bug that was getting to me, and I remember I went in to change the cursor themes and some of the theming, and I went to what I consider to be a normal, like, black and white type, whether I used the white cursor or whatever I did, even for the icons, and yet the red cursor kept popping up in different segments. It was kind of strange. It was there intermittently. The install almost reminded me of Salient OS, where a lot of people were saying, you get to like 24, 25%, and it just sat there. And you were starting to wonder if it was even doing anything. And then all of a sudden was bam, it was a zip, and it went right through and it installed. From a theming standpoint, I didn't think it was all that bad. The wallpaper wasn't my favorite, but it wasn't the worst I've seen in the world, and those are easily fixed. But it just seemed like there were little niggles. I foolishly took it off the laptop and forgot to save the notes, so I don't have all my notes with me. But I didn't think it was a bad distro, but I don't think it was something that I would care to run. If I'm going to run KDE, I'd rather, run something that's a little more, I guess, regularly known, whether it's Ubuntu or just Plasma itself or something like that. But yeah, as far as the netbook, and that's the other thing too. The laptop that I usually test on, I always test because it's got a touch screen, and everything seems to work that way too with the touch screen. So, and it seemed responsive. It seemed pretty snappy for what it was, but there were certain, like I said, little niggles, which unfortunately I can't remember them all. That, like I mentioned, the cursor was one of them that kind of bugged me, because you shouldn't be able to change a theme or change your cursors or your icons and then have little spots of it popping up. So there's probably a bug in there somewhere that's causing that as well.
Yeah, but that used to be an issue years ago with the cursor. Not, some spots you'd have the cursor that you put the theme on, and some you'd have the default cursor. And I think some of that had to do with where the theme was stored, but I have not seen that issue in a modern distro. So it is.
Yeah,
weird.
that's honestly the first time I think I've ever experienced it in quite a long time. And to Mitchell's point too, the name is really kind of nice, kind of like, we don't run weird ones here, mint, peppermint, that kind of thing, So those are, no, anyway, yeah, no, I think it's got potential there, but I just feel like there was some little things about it that kind of just got under my skin. So it wasn't for me, and I took it off fairly quickly.
Thank you, Joe. Tyler?
Mhm.
No sound, brother. Or muted, one or the other.
Hold on. Sorry. I went to mute myself when my dock popped up. So anyway, didn't really give it a fair shake. I just booted it up in a VM, and I will say my first impression of it is I know I say I want more distros to customize Plasma, but I don't think this is the way I'd want it to be customized. So that's all I'm going to say.
All right. Well, thanks very much indeed for that. So just looking down the list, we now come to Barbara. Did you have a play with it last week?
No, I didn't end up playing with it at all because I was one of those people playing with Ubuntu Mate 1910.
Priorities, right, Barb?
Yeah, I have my priorities here.
Big grin on Mr. Pope's face there.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know why. I mean,
so let's see if Mr. Pope found time to play with it. I know he was asking about it earlier on this evening, but
how long have I got?
You got plenty of time, dude.
Okay,
carry on.
So I grabbed the Netrunner 1908 ISO and I installed it on my trusty ThinkPad X220, which has an i7 processor, 16 gig of RAM, and an SSD. So performance shouldn't be a problem. I did a bit of exploratory testing. As soon as I booted up, one of the options was advanced options, and I had a poke in there, and I thought, oh, I wonder what's in there. And there's a thing called hardware detection tool. I thought, never seen that before, don't know what that is, let's try it. As soon as I clicked on it, or tapped on it, it dropped me to a grub prompt that said failed to load libmenu.x32, failed to load com32 file hdd.z32, and then boot prompt, and that was it. And I thought, okay, someone hasn't tested that. So that wasn't good. I then rebooted into the desktop and noted that it's double click rather than single click. So I'm happy there. I started the installer, and as I was going through the installer, I got to the time zone section where it asks you what like region you're in to set the clock. And as soon as I got to that screen, the clock in the corner of the screen went back 5 hours or 6 hours because it didn't detect where I am and immediately thought I was in New York, and so wound the clock back 6 hours, which is a weird thing to do. Because it should know where I am because I was connected to the network, and it should use something like GeoClue to figure out where I am. So A, there's a failure there, and B, the clock shouldn't change. It should ask me what I want and then change after I've chosen the right one. So that was a bit strange. The icons in the disk partitioning section of the installer are really weird. If you take a step back and look at the colors they use green to mean erase disk, which surely red should be used to erase disk, not green. That's weird.
Yes, yes.
And if you install one alongside the other, it shows red for the existing install and red and green for a dual boot install. It's just a bit strange. I think they've got the color scheme around the wrong way. And also, it's not consistent because when you choose to do side-by-side install or one of the other installs, the little bar at the bottom that shows you how they're going to partition, those colors down there don't match the colors at the top. They're blue down the bottom. It's completely inconsistent. It's like random colors were chosen out of a paint pot for that. And the partitioner recommends that the amount of swap that I should have is the same as the amount of RAM, which I will come back to. But I found that interesting because I had an up-to-date Pop! OS install on this machine, and that had 4 gigs of swap, whereas this wanted 17 gigs of swap.
Oh, wow.
Have varying ideas on how much swap you should have, but this thing's got 16 gigs of RAM and it gave 15 plus gigs of swap. So I just thought that was an interesting selection. Also, when I was typing in my password in the installer, as soon as I started typing in the first box, the second box told me that the passwords don't match. Don't do that. Don't do that until I've started typing in the second box, because you don't know whether I've got it the same yet until I've typed in both boxes. So that whole installer is a bit of a bag of spanners, I think. And the fonts in the summary screen at the end of the installer were all not anti-aliased, so they look really spidery at the edges, and it looked like Windows 95. So I wasn't happy about that. Oh, and in the summary screen, it summarizes and says what the partition's going to look like, and it says 206 gigabytes, gigabytes, right? And then immediately below that, it gives a text summary and tells you in megabytes, not even megabytes, but megabytes. So it uses 2 entirely different scales for telling you the same information on the same screen. I think someone didn't look at that screen before it was released. Oh, and if you resize the installer window while the install is running, you can maximize it and it maximizes quickly, and then you unmaximize it and it comes back down again. But if you grab the corner and move the window, all the content judders up and down while you resize the window. It's really weird and looks a bit horrid. I don't know whether that's the installer or KDE or what, but that kind of annoyed me. The slideshow that's in the installer has no arrows to go backwards and forwards through the slides. So it uses a timer and goes from one slide to the next slide. And if you miss one, like you look away and look back and you missed it, there's no arrows. But if you click there, it moves on to the next one and loops back round to the beginning. You can't go back one slide. You have to go all the way to the end and then back round to the start and then click past it. So that was a little bit annoying because I missed some of the text. And the reason why I missed some of the text is because I was typing the text in my notes because it's all grammatically horrible. So I think someone needs to check the text on all of the screens in the slideshow because they're not grammatically correct English, pretty much none of them. So that all kind of annoyed me while I was installing. All of that glitch in the installer and all like the visual inconsistencies just annoyed me throughout the whole thing. And I agree with whoever it was that said the installer, was it Joe mentioned the installer got stuck at like 20%. I had the same thing. It got partway through and then just sat there and it said installing file systems. You don't install a file system. You install software, you create a file system. So again, the language used on the screen is just wrong. And then after it said installing file systems, it said start procedure and pass FW probe to another process. Like, what does that mean? Like, I don't understand. So it was giving me like technical messages underneath the, sorry, my webcam's fallen over. Giving me technical messages underneath the status bar, and then after 20%, it just went bam and shot across to 100%. So that annoyed me. Sorry, I'm still going. I've got a couple more things. The install was pretty quick. Only took 14 minutes, so that's good. The color scheme on the first login was quite good. It was nice and bold, some visual cues from Windows 10, a big clock in the corner. I was annoyed that it called me Alan on the first screen, despite me telling it my name is Alan Pope. Why does it say Alan and not Alan Pope? I don't know. Also, the icons in the bottom right-hand corner are inconsistent. There's an icon for reboot, and it's a orange lightning bolt. Like, who decided that was reboot? And then there's another icon which is a sun, like a glowing sun, and that means reboot. The lightning bolt is shut down, and there's a minus sign to suspend, and these are completely different to the KDE icons. So I don't know where they came from. Oh my god, I can keep going. Sorry, I've got loads more.
Do it, man.
Thank you for finding my notes.
Let's take a pause here for a second, okay? All of these things that we're talking about, some of the things you're talking about, Alan, is not major showstoppers. Some of it is with the installer. Some of it is just aesthetics. But none of this is meant towards saying Netrunner's a piece of trash. It's all meant towards giving the developers feedback so that they can fix this. Gets better.
So positive reinforcement, yeah.
On that note, I went looking for a bug tracker and couldn't find one. So I did want to do the right thing and tell them about these things, but I couldn't find about. All I could find is a forum, and I'm happy to go and sign up to the forum and give them all the information that I've collected here. Happy to do that. I noticed after the install, there's a lot of pre-installed software. A lot of it's KDE, so it's a good showcase for the rest of KDE. As Jill said, there's like Kden Live, Critter, a whole bunch of stuff like that. There's some games on there, so that's nice, like Mahjong and Breakout and stuff like that. The terminal, you could tell this is meant for a netbook because the terminal opens with a very small character width and height, 63 by 23. You shouldn't do that. You should reduce the font size and make it 80 by 25. 80 by 25 is the standard for all terminals everywhere. First launch. You can make it bigger, you can make it smaller, but the first launch should be 80 by 25. Otherwise, when you start doing LS and top and stuff, everything gets cramped and squished and it looks awful. So the default terminal size is a bit odd. There's a lot of non-free software on there, I thought, like Pepper Flash, RAR, Steam, Skype is pre-installed. The Microsoft TrueType fonts are pre-installed, which I don't think you're allowed to do. There's SUSE Studio something in the menu, but I've got no idea what that is. I didn't click on it. Sorry, Nate.
It's an image writer.
Okay. Maybe they need to rename the description of the application, because the fact that it says SUSE Studio something and I don't know what it was, and that was the same for a lot of the applications. I would have to click on them all to find out what they were.
Can I interject for a second, Alan? And correct me, Nate, if I'm wrong. SUSE used to have an online studio where you could create your own, theoretically, distro if you wanted to, or respin of something. Wasn't that? That's what I assumed it was when I saw that name.
No, I think you'll find it's SUSE Studio Writer, the USB creator.
Oh, is that what it meant? Yeah, I didn't give it enough of a look that close, but because I kind of took it as maybe it was kind of like MX allows you to do a respin or something. So sorry for interjecting.
That is SUSE Studio Image Writer. That's what it's called.
It's actually a very good USD writer.
Image writer, yeah.
Okay.
And also it ships with Mint Update, which also is a bit strange. I opened the update thing because I got a little notification in the corner telling me to update, so I did. And I just pressed the install updates button. And when I did that, it held back 3 updates. It held back systemd, Linux kernel, and then its headers. I think that's a bad thing to do. I don't want to be insecure. I want to have all the updates on my system. So that was strange. Also, the help menu in Mint Updater doesn't work. It errors telling you there's a Python file missing.
Mm-hmm. Just a quickie, Alan, that proves to me that Mint Updater is the very, very old version of Mint Updater. Do you remember when they only used to have 1, 2, and 3 ticked, and they left 4 and 5 unticked?
Yes.
So 4 and 5 would have been exactly those things that you talked about.
Yes,
so
they would.
The newer version doesn't do that anymore, and they give you everything.
So there must be some default they haven't done.
Yeah.
Also going back to what Mitchell said about the cursors, yes, I completely agree with you. The cursor theme is just crazy. Having a wonky shaped red mouse cursor. Also, when the install's going, you get this red fat clock and like spinning. Yeah. So I went away to make dinner and I came back, and that's when I found not all the updates were installed. I was a little bit annoyed by that. So overall, I'd say it needs more polish. It needs someone to take a step back and look at every screen really carefully and consider carefully whether the things on the screen are right and whether they work. So there's a bit of QA missing there. But it's a showcase of KDE stuff. And as a showcase of KDE stuff, it's a good way to get a look at a lot of KDE applications at once. I'm not sure I would choose it over and above KDE Neon or Kubuntu. And I'm not saying Kubuntu just because I work on Ubuntu, but they are both, KDE Neon and Kubuntu are both good examples of how you can get KDE. I think this could do better.
So your new daily driver then, Alan?
Well, it's on my beloved ThinkPad X220. I do not know.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
you very much for that.
No worries.
In-depth review. And it always never ceases to amaze me. And I just love this whole group because everybody looks at things in a different way. And although exactly what Alan did is exactly what we do when we get our Peppermint release, looking at every single screen to make everything. When I'm doing a distro review, I just want to get past all that and get the thing installed and see how it works. So again, that's a great point of having so many different flavors of how people review stuff, that the developers, when we do these distro challenges, I think get some awesome feedback. So that's really cool. Thank you very much indeed.
I realize I may sound super grumpy, and I may sound, I mean, it is 1 a.m., this might all have sounded super negative, but none of this is a showstopper, as Rocco said. These are all little tiny things that if they just polish a little bit, it would be 100 times better, I think.
And a lot of, when I mentioned niggles, you hit on a lot of them. What I had come across too with it. So it's, you basically spoke. I could have just let you speak, and you have covered us all. So
sounds good. All right, Daniel. Moving on to your good self. Did you get to try it?
I tried it a little bit. Real quick, like I just want to say that like taking a 3-week break, like a forced 3-week break, makes me appreciate, and then listening to all you guys like just makes me appreciate how much I love this. Like and being able to get back into a rhythm of coming every week hopefully is awesome. But yeah, I didn't have a lot of time to play with it. I installed it on the extra drive on my machine here, and I mean I like some of the software choices. A lot of what everybody else has already said covers pretty much my thoughts. The only weird thing I had is like I got it installed, the installer went fine. The red cursor thing is again, it's a weird thing. A lot of that stuff can be fixed. I'm not the biggest KDE fan anyway. Like it's a lot for me. Like I'm one of those guys that just likes my desktop to like be there and get out of the way. But with that said, the one weird thing that I had that I don't think I've had mentioned, so maybe nobody else has run into it, is I installed it and now when I go to reboot, like it does nothing. Like I hit the Windows key, bring up the menu, click the little reboot icon, and it does nothing. And it actually freezes my whole machine. And I have to hard reset with the power button.
Oh, that's not good.
So,
And I take it you can't, because sometimes you can press the up arrow and get rid of the splash screen and see what's doing behind.
I tried that. It kind of locks up the mouse. It locks up
Wow.
the only button it doesn't lock up is that. And so I don't know if it was just something weird with my install. I mean, I kind of had the same thing, right? You get to 20%, it hangs there for a minute, and then bam, right to 100%. It was a little sluggish when I was working in it, but nothing horrible. It seems like it's weird for it to be sluggish on this machine because I'm on a ThinkPad. It's a W542. So this thing's got an i7 in it with 32 gigs of RAM on it. So like, I don't think it should be really sluggish. And it's got all my SSDs in here are Samsung 850 EVOs. So, and the one that's in there that it was on is like brand new. So I don't know, maybe it was just a bad install, but just something to call out. But I think everybody else captured everything I've experienced.
To pick up on that percentage mark where it seems to sit there a long time, I did hear somebody explaining to me once, and you'll have to excuse my terminology because I can never remember the correct words, but when you create an ISO image, you have to compress it to get it all within a certain size. And sometimes what's happening in the background is that image compression thing is being unpacked. But as Silent Robot said, all they've got to do is set the timer for that unpack session to just slowly tick across rather than look at the whole thing that's happening, because it's doing what it's doing. It's just not telling you that something's going on in the background. And it's that uncompression of getting all the files ready to install that it's doing. Because I think Salient OS does a very similar thing. It gets to about 17 to 24%, sits, waits there for maybe 10 minutes sometimes, and all of a sudden goes, yeah, thank you very much, finished. And you go, whoa. And that brings up the standard Linux complaint of nobody can do a percentage timer bar correctly.
Well, I mean, think about file transfers. Because file transfers, it's counting the number of files, not the size of the files. And so sometimes you'll have that bar just stop. And then all of a sudden it'll shoot way up.
But it's 2019, Vash. Can't we get it right?
I mean, talk to somebody else, a UI designer or something. I don't know.
No, I'm just teasing you, brother.
So, Paul, did you get a chance to test? I'm not sure if you're there.
Yeah, I'm here. Every time I turn on my video, my computer freezes. So,
fair enough.
Actually, I'm testing it right now. I picked up a laptop at a garage sale for $1. And the charger at Walmart cost me $19. So, but yeah, I've got it installed on there. It's running great actually on this little Core 2 Duo, it says. So I like it. It's Plasma. I love Plasma anyway. So great job.
Okay. Steve, did you get a chance to take a look?
No, I had major troubles with the install with Calmars. It didn't work with Endeavor. I had difficulties with Manjaro. It really showed up in Netrunner. I did a video on Monday, or I did a live stream where I had some of those in the chat helping me, and I got nowhere. I tried several different partition schemes, putting boot flag here, there, everywhere, nothing. So I looked at it live. Really, it's KDE. I have not used much in KDE, so I couldn't tell if there was much of a difference from, say, something like Ubuntu or that. I did. One of my followers, Paul Sear, asked me to check out Neptune, and it looked like it was going to be the same thing as Netrunner. And because what would happen is my system would reboot after install, and then my BIOS would say you need to install an OS. So I went back in live with Neptune, and in the main root partition, I actually just added a boot flag, reboot it, and it went into it. Now, I don't know if that would have helped in Netrunner, but I did try several partition schemes in that, and I'm using it on an HP 8670. But Calamares just seems to be an Achilles heel with that laptop. So unfortunately, I mean, I just got so frustrated with it by not installing that I just didn't. I gave a cursory look with the live version, and I don't know what's going on with Calamares. I know it's not part of. It's not the reason that Runner didn't work, because it's happening on other distributions. But that's kind of all I got. Sorry, guys.
All right. Thank you, Steve. We're going to take a quick trip around the room again because we got a little bit of time yet. Nate, sir, do you want to add anything to your thoughts?
I think Alan covered it. I was actually going to just add to about when I installed updates. Like, it didn't install like the core security bits, and I didn't understand that. But I don't know. I'd have to dig into it and find out maybe why. It could be like Windows, how you have to install updates and then you reboot and you install updates and then you reboot and then you install updates. It could be they're going for that so people feel more familiar and comfortable with Netrunner coming from the Windows world. It could be, but I don't know. I mean, it's it's not my favorite implementation of KDE. I'd prefer a more vanilla KDE experience. Like, I would get an OpenSUSE where I can just change it to what I want. But I mean, I know KDE on Debian is all right. It's a pretty vanilla experience. I would even prefer that. I think if I had to choose between them, I think I would prefer the Debian experience. No install issues. I didn't hear anyone having Debian install issues. I didn't have any install issues, but that'd be it. I mean, it's fine. I wish them well. I hope they can continue to kind of tool away at it, knock off some of these rough edges, and get it. Get it tied in, really locked in. I wasn't sure who their target audience was. Someone said like netbooks, I guess, but I couldn't determine how I would or why I would choose this over any other KDE distribution. Like, I wasn't sure what the unique competitive edge was of Netrunner versus some others. I couldn't pick up on that, but that might be my own failing actually. So, but that's it.
Dig it. Very nice. Eric, did you want to add anything?
I did, and this is more a commentary on KDE Plasma and the progress they've made recently. So, looking beyond the theming and some of the, the rough edges, using 5.14 shows me how much progress they've made in just the last few releases, and it's actually pretty impressive. So things just like the system settings panel and the way that old layout was, and this isn't very long ago. Just how much that's improved with that layout. The notifications, just it really is amazing. I'm repeating myself, but it is impressive to me how much they achieved in such a short amount of time in terms of those quality of life improvements that they made.
Well, I think that goes back to, I mean, I won't say it's a bad thing, but for me personally, you're right. KDE comes along very quickly, and even a few versions back. So then that goes for even Debian itself. I wouldn't want to be on a KDE version that's older because there are so many good features in the newer versions. All right, Dan Kelly, sir.
Yes, sir.
Do you want to add anything to your thoughts of last week?
Well, I'm with you guys on the cursor. The red cursor turned me off, so I went in the settings and tried to set it to a normal black and white cursor. So what did I get? On one screen, when it's sitting there, it would be black and white. When I move it over to my second screen, it'd turn red. So that kind of really ticked me off a little, fighting with that. The drop down terminal, I'm not a big fan of that. And I could not even get it to move off my main screen onto my secondary screen. It like hogged up the space that I use the most. So I really wasn't a fan of that. And it drops halfway down your screen and covers a big part of it. In my case, it was pretty huge. This Calamari installer has been a problem for over a year. There's some guys that have worked on it and rebuilt it. Spatry and Ben Fitzpatrick rebuilt Calamari installer last year because there's something wrong with it with legacy boot. And they actually made a fully working one that would install Manjaro on old machines. It's so I know there's been issues with that installer for a while. And that's really all I have left to say about it.
All right, Colin, you want to add anything?
I might just add that sounds like everyone was cursing about the first thing they seen in Netrunner, but pretty much gave my thoughts last week. I've moved on this week to something else, so I found it okay, but not for me, definitely. But I've moved on.
All right, I think the last one we need to get to is Chris. You gave some thoughts last week, I think, but did you want to add anything to Netrunner?
No, I didn't really do anything different this week. I just kept it as kind of a daily driver, and with the what was the Manjaro version. I didn't put the updated version on there, so I don't really have anything other to report other than nothing really bad or good or anything else like that. You know, CSC.
All right, Chris, thank you. So anybody want to make a final comment, or are we going to move on?
If you don't mind, Roger,
Yeah.
just one little
Do it.
thing. Oh, sorry, Mitchell.
No, I was going to mention you, Steve. I was there when he was trying to install Netrunner, and it was a nightmare. I felt bad for him. He was really, he was trying everything. Everything. He was going all out, and it just kept crashing and crashing.
Yeah, that's right. The installer crashed like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, I really felt sorry for that too. I was there in the chat as well, trying to put in some things, and I knew what it had to do with legacy problems from a year ago, where we had to take the installer apart to get to work on certain machines.
But yeah, I installed Neptune, did the same thing, booted with no OS, but I just went in and was able to add a flag, and I was fine, and I couldn't do that in Netrunner, and I don't know why.
I think it's just unfortunate that being based upon Debian, they haven't chosen to update a number of key features, because I think the Calamari installer has now fixed a lot of the problems that they were suffering from, and certainly the Mint updater no longer suffers from that scenario that Alan found, where items that were previously marked 4 and 5 failed. And to pick up on the fact that it is a very good KDE showcase, and I think that's because I think it's Blue Systems that does the backing, and they are a massive KDE fan organization anyway. So does it have a niche audience? Possibly not. It's just there to try and showcase what KDE can do, and I think it loses out on that because of all of these paper cuts trying to get it installed, and the first impressions of reading those introduction screens will just go, have these guys really taken their time in producing a quality product? And it's a shame, because when I used to use it before, and I think it was around about version 14, and one of the people in chat mentioned it as well, it was a great little distro, but back then it was based off of Ubuntu. So maybe they just need to go back to having a better base.
Doesn't Calamares actually update itself when you first run it anyway, or not? I thought it did on all distros.
I think that was Cinchi.
No?
Cinchi, yeah.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay, yeah, that's what I'm.
Yeah, that
okay.
installer's baked into the ISO.
Yeah, but
Right.
the Calamares is usually a really good install. I don't ever have problems with Calamares. So
These issues are hardware sensitive. Some people, like myself, never experience a problem with them. There's some people that have some machines, and they just don't work for them.
To be fair, I have heard distros saying that they struggle sometimes with Calamares and having to fix their own bugs and trying to get those pushed upstream. So I think it's a very capable installer, but it does take a certain amount of care and attention to get it to be clean and polished, and some of the things that Alan pointed out, things like that.
I think it's a bit strange that I think it's been around a long time, as you say. If you look at the history, the about page, you can see all the previous releases of Ubuntu that it used to be based on, and all the previous releases of Debian that it's been based on. And the fact that it's been around for a long time and still has these gotchas now is a bit strange. You would expect that something that had been around that long, these kind of paper cut things wouldn't be there by now. But every distro has bugs, right? They all do. I find it a bit weird that Blue Systems support multiple options here. Like, they support the development of KDE Neon and Netrunner, and now they're also in partnership with Manjaro. So it feels like maybe there's going to be a rationalization at some point. Maybe one of these will go away, or they'll merge. Maybe Netrunner and KDE Neon will merge and become based on Manjaro or something like that. I don't know, but it feels like a waste of resources to be maintaining multiple distros.
Yep. And didn't they also sort of take a slight sidestep once with something called Maui or Mui or something, which was a KDE version that span off of their Netrunner Ubuntu, unless I'm mistaken.
I do remember something about that, but I can't remember the details of it. All right. That's our thoughts on Netrunner. I want to thank the devs for the work that they put into it already. We did find some issues and some problems with it, and like I said before, it's not meant to be a crash session on Netrunner. It's meant to help and put highlights to things that need to be fixed so it can be a better project. So I appreciate the hard work, and hopefully it will get better next time we try. All right. So we have to choose another distro for the distro challenge, but I am going to again throw a twist in the works. So normally we pick out of the suggestions in the discourse, but obviously because Ubuntu has released 1910, we need to try 1910. All right, and some people have made the argument, and I think, Eric, you were one of those guys, that we don't want to be trying Ubuntu's for 12 weeks in a row because there's so many versions, right?
Why not?
So, and I agree with that. So what the plan is here, I still feel like the idea was to just you pick whatever Ubuntu you want to try. But to me, I think that they still deserve to be tried separately. Now, with the exception of Ubuntu, because we just tried. But I think they all need to be tried separately. So my plan is we're going to test each individual Ubuntu out, but we're going to go for the Ubuntus, we're going to go back to 1 week. That way we aren't working 12 weeks in a row trying every Ubuntu out there. It'll be just the amount of versions that they have. So starting out, we'll start with Ubuntu 19.10, the main version. and we'll go from there. We'll pick one for the following weeks. So I'm sorry it's not a choice this week.
I think you need to get a little screwdriver to that, Alan, because it keeps falling.
It does.
I was gonna say, every few minutes it creeps down on him.
Does he have a cat?
So we're going for the Ubuntu GNOME version, right?
Yes, we're going for plain Ubuntu 1910.
Ubuntu proper.
Ubuntu proper.
Vanilla.
I don't do anything proper.
It has GNOME on it as the default desktop environment. And we will try it this week, report back next, and we will pick another 1910 version.
Well,
And
luckily enough,
GNOME on it is proper.
I guess that's good because I tried the Ubuntu Mate this week and it crashed right before the show.
Oh. Okay, well, we'll save that one for the Ubuntu Mate week. And I'm hoping that some of the more adventurous of you out there, it won't be me because it's my main machine, will try ZFS.
I'm going to try that.
Ooh, I do want to try that.
Because I've read that ZFS is really more for the server side of things rather than the desktop, but I don't know if that holds true.
So I guess I do have to give Ubuntu a proper try because I've been spending the last week playing with Kubuntu 1910.
We will get to
making it all Unity-fied.
We will get to that, Tyler. This week is Ubuntu.
Can I ask a question then, Alan?
Wait, hold on, Colin.
Oh, sorry.
I got to refute something. Derek, you're wrong.
No worries.
It is GNOME, and it's awesome. Okay.
Well, I threw that out there for you, Rocco.
I know. All right, Colin, go ahead.
ZFS. What is the advantages of ZFS, and is it okay for the desktop?
Snapshotting.
Snapshots is why people like it on the server. Is
the main
snapshot.
Yeah. So one of the things that's coming in 2004 that's not in 1910 will be the ability to integrate with apt. So if you do an apt upgrade, it'll do a snapshot immediately before it does the upgrade. So if it all goes pear-shaped, you could reboot to the grub menu and go back and forward. And switch between to figure out.
So a quick follow-on question from that, because I know that one of your big complaints of ButterFS is you give it 40 gigs and then you've just suddenly got 40 gigs full up of snapshots. Does ZFS do the same thing, or does it go only allow a certain amount and then drop off the oldest one when you create a new one?
Well, the snapshots don't take a snapshot doesn't take the space that the snapshot. I'm not a ZFS expert, but as I understand it, the snapshot doesn't take up the space that you're snapshotting. It's the space taken after you've done the snapshot. And as we haven't implemented it yet, I can't tell you how the management of that will look, and whether there'll be a button to say clean them up, or whether it'll age them out after 30 days or what. I just don't know.
So is this going to be the last version of Ubuntu with this color scheme, given that Martin has taken control of the desktop? Is it going to become green?
So fill us in on this, Alan. Fill us in on this.
Now, wait a minute. I got to make that a two-part question, because I want to know, Alan, that snapshot, was that Microsoft's idea now that they're friendly with Ubuntu? Because, they got the recovery mode for their operating system crashes, you can recover it. So
we are no more friendly with Microsoft on the desktop team than we are in any other team.
I know.
However, I do have to say, the Ubuntu podcast this week, you guys came up with some good ideas for 2004, and the idea of a snapshot or a recovery like Dell does, or I guess Microsoft.
Yes, I particularly like that one.
Especially for a non-technical user, to just tell them, hey, just hit this key combination and boot to this and grub, and you'll have a working system again.
That might happen as well. Having ZFS take a snapshot post install so that you could revert back to a install, that might be nice. But pie in the sky ideas. So going back to the previous question, because there was about 4 there.
Yes.
The story of Martin.
Yes. Fill us in, please. Fill us in.
I mean, probably you should ask Martin, but
he's not here to ask, Alan. So we're asking you.
Will has been at Canonical and has run the desktop team for the last 5+ years. He's had other roles, but he's run the desktop team, and he's found a new adventure. So he left this week and he's off to InfluxDB, and he presided over the desktop team for a number of years. And as soon as Martin found out that Will was leaving, he expressed interest in the role, I think is a kind way to put it. And that was done and dusted. So Martin now takes over responsibility for the desktop team, and still runs the Snap advocacy team and Snapcraft. But we're doing a bit of internal juggling because it's not good to have a manager with like hundreds of people under them. So but that's all internal nonsense that you don't really care about. What's more important is, yes, Martin is taking over from Will, running the desktop team.
And
Very nice.
Can I just put my 2 pence worth in? That I see a lot of people in the chat talking about, yeah, great, that now means that Ubuntu Mate is going to become the default desktop. I think that would be such a slap in the face to GNOME that I don't think Martin will ever agree to that. It would look too much like nepotism, and Martin just doesn't work like that from what I know of him.
I can confidently
I
say
could dream.
Yeah.
I was just making a joke about the color scheme, so.
And internally we've made the same jokes. So.
Yeah, and I tell you what, just for 2004, you have got to do it. Start putting some artwork out there that's a bit green.
Well, there just needs to be a Yaru.
Wait for the backlash. That would be awesome.
And do the release on the 1st of April, right?
Yes.
A green Yaru.
Yaru Mate Green.
Green Yaru.
Just don't make it an April Fool's joke.
We'll rename Yaru to be Yerba, and then it'll be Yerba Mate, which is green. It's a plant. Yerba Mate.
No, my own personal take on it is, I mean, Martin is a stalwart champion of Linux on the desktop, and I mean, of course, his own personal feelings towards Mate and that, but I mean, all of that flows back in, right? And that's the thing about the flavors, is they all contribute back to the core. And what I hope to see out of this is that Martin strengthens Ubuntu's desktop commitment, and then also, the various flavors have even stronger support. I can't see this being anything but a positive, honestly.
I'm biased. I've worked with Martin for a few years now, and he's good friend, and also my manager. So, I'm not going to say anything bad, but like between you and me, I think this is a really excellent thing.
Yes.
Now, when they said that he was going back to his roots or something, what did that mean? I wasn't quite sure.
So when he first joined Canonical, he joined on the desktop team, and then he moved over pretty quickly from the desktop team to work on snaps with me on the Snap advocacy team. So when he says back to his roots, that's what drew him into Canonical. His first role at Canonical was on the desktop team. But you should talk to him about this.
We will.
Yeah.
We will do when we do Ubuntu Mate, and hopefully get him on to come and have a chat.
Oh, you know what? Sorry,
Zeb. The desktop, he might be a bit too busy.
Yeah, that's the problem. He's going to be a busy guy now.
Yeah. What we should do is the next Europe edition. That should be the Mate.
I don't know. That might have been in the plans already. That's what I'm saying. Throw it out there. Well, that is absolutely awesome, and I would agree that I don't think we could ask for a better representative than that.
Yeah.
All right, so we have some housekeeping to do. So there is a new podcast in the work.
Really?
You know anything about this?
No, do tell.
Oh, well, anyway, if you've ever heard of Destination Linux and the Destination Linux Network, our own Eric Adams and Cubicle Nate, GI Nate, Obstinate, that guy, are going to do a podcast together.
Nice.
And, well, let me let you explain.
Awesome.
Because it's your show. So do it.
Nate, you, me?
Well,
right.
I look at it as the regular hosts of Destination Linux are often wrong, and so we're going to correct them.
I don't know why. I don't know why, but they thought it was a good idea to let us critique and review their shows.
Right. I don't know how that idea actually came about.
Really what
Eric.
it is,
I don't
it's
remember.
Nate and I talking. Yeah, it's Nate and I talking to each other for. On Thursday night, we went for about 4 hours, and we're just gonna have to cut that down into, we're gonna try to keep it around a half an hour. That sounds like a monumental challenge, and that's really what it is. We just kind of go through what Destination Linux for Everyone, Ask Noah, Zebedee, DOS Geek, This Week in Linux, just sort of all that Destination Linux network stuff. And there's so much content there, right? And so Nate and I just sort of get on and start talking about it and record it. And
in some ways, they don't have enough time to really expand the topic. So we're going to kind of, I call it like a PK unzip of the topic a little bit and expand it out a little bit and look at some other aspects of it. So, and it's a lot of, for me, it's a lot of fun anyway. Like I get to talk to Eric, and we went way over on time, but it was just loads of fun.
So
and
is there going to be
Rocco,
like 8-bit music?
Between segments.
So Nate's bit guy would really like that.
What YouTube channel are you airing this on?
No, it's an audio podcast. Yeah.
So what's it going to be called?
It's called DLN Extend.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the first episode is out. We did a test recording that we thought was going to be a throwaway, just us playing around trying to record it. And then we threw some music on it and edited it down and leveled it out and made it sound as good as we could. And then we shared it with the guys, and they were like, "This is great. Why don't you just put this out?" And so that's what's out there now. And Nate is feverishly working on the stuff we recorded on Thursday. So we'll have that out the next day or two. And
Now,
then we're going to go for once a week and try to shoot for Fridays to get it out.
You guys are recording for over 4 hours. Are y'all trying to compete with Michael Tennell?
It was not on purpose, just happenstance. It was so. Rocco, when you did that interview of me, do you remember how many interruptions that I had?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was worse.
There are a few children in Nate's house that are rambunctious, to say the least.
Pickles. That's all I was going to say. Pickles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and for everybody, there's a link in the YouTube chat, and if you click on the episode archive about halfway down the stream, you'll get to the first link that the guys have produced for everyone.
So this is going to be in a like anybody can search for it in their podcast app, right?
Yeah, it'll be on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and
Spotify,
and it'll be everywhere.
Pocket Cast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that pulls from that.
Yeah, Pocket Cast. That's what I use, and it's in there already. So,
dig it.
It's funny. We had the question last week about who listens to podcasts, and a lot of us did. And now all of a sudden, one just magically surfaced. So now we're going to start from there, I guess.
Now you have more.
Joe, note that I'm trying to keep it short because I am the one that criticized long podcasts.
This is the guy that said, "I don't have time for 2-hour podcasts, but we're going to go 4 hours."
Oh, Popey found it. Or no, Tyler found it. There it is.
No, I'm just saying I got a lot of podcasts.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's so exciting, Eric. And
It's with an X, Popey. It's DLN space X10.
Also, what is with those googly eyes on your phone?
That's fabulous. That's a good idea.
There's going to be a young daughter.
Just as a this is my first podcast. Nate has a podcast that I think he does a really good job on. We think it's good stuff, but obviously we want to hear back from you guys. So listen to the first one. Know that is literally the first one. We had no idea what we were doing. The next one I think is a little better in terms of what we discuss, and but any feedback you have, would love to hear it. And it's not about regurgitating the content. It's really about us. Like Nate jokingly said, a lot of times I don't agree with what they say on the show. And I'm sure some of you guys, when you listen to the stuff, also have differing opinions or want to talk about things more. So that's really what we're trying to do, is to just all of that content, just pick a few things, and especially the things that maybe bugged us or that we wanted to talk about more. So
very cool.
And if you don't like what I say, if you don't like what I have to say, you can send me an email, youstink@cubiclenate.com, and I will respond.
And what I think is going to be some of the funnier episodes is when those members of Destination Linux disagree with Destination Linux Extend, and we then come back on to defend our reasoning. So I think that could be quite fun.
Yes.
We think the most vehement guest is going to be Michael every week.
You think?
Every week.
That's because Michael's never wrong. Deb.
Right. He's never wrong, but sometimes.
Oh, I'm glad he's a double clicker then.
Anything else you want to throw out there about it?
That's really it. We're just getting started. We want to put them out each week. And any feedback, the format is Nate and I picking the shows and picking the topics for the shows. We do also want to bring people on. So, if Zeb comes up with something, or we just want to have them on for a few minutes to talk about that particular segment. So we're just trying some things and seeing where it goes from there. But we're pretty happy with where it is now, and we'll see what happens.
Downloading it now.
Very nice.
Okay, you said it was on Apple Podcasts. I can't get it. Can't get it on my phone.
Okay.
Can't even find it.
I didn't see it.
It could be that it hasn't actually come through yet. Like, when you submit it, it takes a while for it to actually come through. Like,
okay, because it says no results.
It just got pushed out.
Yeah. So Ryan just put it on there like literally 6 hours ago.
Oh, okay.
And same thing with Spotify.
It can take like 24 hours for that stuff to actually like populate.
Okay, because I was just wondering, because I just looked for it and thought, I guess I typed the wrong thing. Nope, I did type the right thing.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
So make sure you check it out and report back on how bad it really is to disagree with Michael Tunnell. All right, a little more housekeeping. Next week. So next week you said, Zeb, that the UK changes their time zone.
We're changing our times tonight.
You're changing it tonight.
8 minutes ago.
So that will affect next week's show. So for the UK, next week's show will be at 1 o'clock?
No, midnight.
Midnight. So for the UK, next week's show will be at midnight. But then the week after that, we turn our clocks back, and it will be back to normal.
But will it though? Because it will still be midnight here. Because it's going to be your 8 p.m. Saturday, so it will still be midnight in the UK until the week after you change.
There's a 1 week difference. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
You won't change until 2 p.m. in the morning, will you?
Yes. Till Sunday morning.
By which time the show had already been gone, shared, and aired. So for the next 2 weeks, we'll be at 12 a.m. UK time.
Yep. So we change back on the 3rd of November here in the U.S.
That's
so
next week.
Which is technically Sunday morning.
Right, which won't affect Biddle.
So it's just 1 week where it's going to be a bit mismatched then.
No, 2 weeks.
No, 2.
Because we don't switch back until 2 a.m. Sunday morning.
Right.
By which time it's going to be 7 a.m. in the UK.
Oh, right.
Right. So it'll be messed up next Saturday, but then the following Saturday after the 3rd, everything will be back to normal for everyone, right?
But it's already messed up for them this Saturday.
It'll be messed up this Saturday and the next Saturday.
And next,
It's a good thing we got this
time
worked
until
out.
Sunday.
Anyway, check your local time zones. Whatever you fall back, check the time, okay?
You know what?
Just look for the Big Daddy Linux live video on your homepage, or just
YouTube will send out the notifications, though, right?
Of course they will. So we're
that's right.
40 minutes late.
Just rely on YouTube, you'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll know.
Right, boy.
We're good. We're good. So don't worry about it.
Doesn't Australia
What,
then
you wanna go out?
2 weeks after the US?
You want to go out, don't you?
So
Do
it's
you
like,
No, we changed a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, you did.
So
Can we just all get rid of this?
We're
You
an
know.
hour ahead now.
I really hate this time zone.
So I had to make an adjustment 2 weeks ago.
Well, disclaimer, we don't change at all. So I get a sleep in on
Yeah,
Saturday
Colin's in a
morning.
different. He's in a different state.
So I get, instead of 8 o'clock, I'm 9 o'clock. So I get to have my breakfast.
So I have one question for Popey. You did some live streams past week.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, and everybody loved it. So, what's next?
Wow, that's
you can't just.
I wasn't expecting this.
You can't just do some live streams and then stop, dude.
Right.
So you have to do something. So what are you doing to do?
My YouTube view time has gone up and then back down again. So the whole point of that was we were a couple of days before the release of 1910, and I wanted to remind people that it's a good idea to try out distros before they're released, because that's when you find bugs and you can tell the distro. And this whole thing that I keep banging on about, filing bugs and talking to the developers and letting the distro know when something is busted so they can fix it, right? It's no good waiting until the day after the release, getting the ISO, testing it, and then complaining that it's busted on your hardware, because that's too late. The ISO has already been burned, and the release is done. Now, some would argue, well, you should test it on every different type of machine. That ain't going to happen for a number of reasons. Partly because no distro has the resources to test all of their ISOs on every single different type of computer, right? Not even Microsoft does that with Windows. So we test on some machines, and we have some automated testing and some manual testing, but I wanted to let people know how you could do it and how actually not incredibly hard it is to do. And so that was the whole point of it, was just showing, you could put an ISO on a USB key, put it in a spare laptop, maybe a ThinkPad, maybe not. I'm not prejudiced. In fact, it's a good idea to use something other than a ThinkPad, because ThinkPads work really well. Test it out and let us know if there's a problem. So your question, what's next?
Wait, before we go there, I want to say that I thought that format, that live streaming, that particular thing of downloading an ISO and even doing the test questions and everything was perfect, because you don't ever see that. Like, normal users do not get to see that kind of thing. And you were going through, and it didn't go flawlessly. You had problems. You're like, oh, what happened here? Why didn't this happen? And you worked through it. And it's good for people to see that kind of stuff, that to say, you know what, I'm not the only one that has issues. Just got to work through them. And I thought it was a great format.
Yeah, no one files bug reports on YouTube videos. I mean, really, I've never seen that other than what Popey was doing the other day. That was great. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're on the hook now, because that was really, really enjoyable to watch. And I also appreciate that even though you are a canonical guy, you were going through it piece by piece and saying, well, that's not right. We need to fix that. And
right.
I mean, I think that shows that, like you said, every distro has bugs, particularly new releases, and it just comes with the territory.
And actually, some of those bugs that we were stumbling across a few days before release. So I've talked about the mechanism by which a distro release happens, and it's different for every distro. And some are more regimented, and some are a bit laissez-faire about how they create their ISOs and how they're published. It's like, oh, that looks good enough, let's publish it. We have a very regimented release process, and it's fully documented. You can go online to our wiki and see the release process, and you can see all the steps and who has to sign off for each step, and each of the flavors have to sign off, and loads of other teams have to sign off. And once the sign off happens, then it's released, and we have to have no release critical bugs. And it can be that the release is so good that there are no release critical bugs on the Monday, and the ISO that's built on the Monday turns into the release candidate, and it becomes the actual release on Thursday. But with this release, with a bunch of new stuff going in and it not being an LTS, often, like between you and me, we jam a few things into the one that goes out after the LTS, because that's where we can put stuff in, because most of our users stay on the LTS, right? And so the post-LTS release, we could jam a load of interesting stuff, like the ZFS en route installer. There's no way we would have jammed that in the LTS. We had to get it in 1910. And so that's the opportunity to try that stuff out. And sometimes that breaks, and we discover new and interesting bugs. And so that's what happened over the course of those 3 days after I started doing those live streams. We found a bunch of bugs. They got fixed. and the ISO was released. But that there was a notable, after I did those videos, I'm not taking like sole credit for this, but after I did those videos, there were a number of people doing more ISO testing as a result. And so there was a net benefit. More people were testing, more eyeballs, more bug reports, better ISO. Simple as that.
Mm-hmm. And can we just, and I know Frank might get a bit embarrassed about it, but when we was at OggCamp, we had a fantastic story. And I can't remember if it was you who told it or Martin who told it. We're always talking about how can you help out? Well, if you think back, what's it, about 6 months when Frank just joined the Mate team and said, can I help you guys out? How can I do things? So tell the story about the bug he submitted. I think it was maybe like 10 hours before you were going to burn the ISO.
Oh, that wasn't me. Yeah, I think it was Martin who probably told you about that. But yeah, so I don't know that story, I'm afraid. So, but there were certainly bugs that were raised leading up to the release that were found by people in the community, not canonical people, like Frank, who have, that spidey sense that this thing is not right. There's something not right about this image. It's booting slower, or there's something wrong with it. And he identified something, filed the bug, pinged Martin. Martin pinged the release manager and said, hey, this thing's busted. And it was a mad scramble. So on release week, leading up to that Thursday, the release team are in the London office. Normally they're all spread around the world, but they all fly in every release week. They all fly into London and they all work together to get the release out the door. And yeah, when a community person finds a bug and that gets escalated all the way up to the release manager, and it's like, stop the factory, we need to figure out what's going on here and then fix it. And yeah, there was a bit of a mad scramble on Wednesday to generate that last ISO.
Yeah, Adam Grubbs was found a bug that week
Adam
as well.
Yeah, Adam found one as well. Yeah.
So it just goes to prove if you don't think you're technical, you don't need to be, because Alan showed how simple it is to test an ISO. And as he's already said, and there's not one single distribution that has every single type of machine out there.
And the best part was about it that you went step by step, that anybody could follow that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I know it's sometimes seen as impenetrably hard to contribute to Linux distributions, but anyone who uses a Linux distribution has done the necessary thing, which is, can you put it on a USB key? Can you install it? Like, if you could do that and follow a guide to tell you how to do it, follow instructions, you are probably overqualified for the job of contributing to a Linux distribution, because that's all we need. And we've already got the ISO images, the daily images being built for 2004 now. They don't differ a lot from 1910, but we're already getting people testing them and already getting bug reports on images that are like pre-alpha images. So that's really cool.
So what's next for Popey's YouTube channel?
I think actually I'll do some more of that, but what I might do is actually show the bug reporting process, because one thing I didn't show was actually reporting the bug and actually how to create a good bug report. What data do you need to put in there? How do you describe it? And then I think it's really freewheeling, like what people want me to do. Like I have a vast amount of information in my head about the way Ubuntu works, but I don't know what other people don't know. And I think I need to get feedback from other people. So yeah, people can find me on Telegram or wherever and tell me, hey man, you should do a video that shows how to do this or that. And if I can, I'll gladly do it with the setup that I have. So I'm happy to take feedback from people who have suggestions.
I've been using Mate for the past week, and it pops up the thing that it detected an error and stuff like that. And I got it set up so it knows right off that when I installed it, I said, have all the information you want about crashes and all that junk in my computer. And even though the computer's running fine, it'll pop this message up. It detected an error. And I hit send, and hopefully you guys are getting that stuff.
I've been getting the same thing only for the last few days. It wasn't like that at first, but I've been getting that the last few days, and it doesn't matter which laptop I use. But I click send report, and hopefully somebody will catch it.
I tried to play a Steam game, and that's what killed it completely.
So I can go through that. That's a brilliant suggestion. I will make a note of that, because the whole process of why that pop-up appears, when you press send, where it goes, and what happens to that information is maybe interesting to you, and also how you can maybe stop that happening would be good. So yeah,
I think it would be a good idea, because a lot of people might think that, oh, well, I'm just one of 2 million people who's filing a bug and they won't take any interest of mine. But they will, because it all gets mounted up, and all of a sudden you've got 550,000 people reporting this one bug. Hey guys, I think we got a problem with XYZ within an update that just went out. And that certainly sounds like, if it wasn't happening before, Barbara, and it's now happening, an update has come through that's triggered something, I think.
Exactly, and that's when it happened. And it was I want to say it was like maybe Monday. I mean, it's been going on all this week, and it wasn't going on last week. So I don't know, and it doesn't matter which computer I use. It happens right after it boots up. Everything, the whole desktop, everything is set. And you get the little error message, and I click
got that
send
too,
report.
right after it boots.
Yep.
You get
And
the
you log in
thing
once
and
it boots, and you log in, and
you
boom,
get
that's the
error
first thing that pops up. And then I just
So
click send.
next time it happens when it's during a time when someone in Europe is awake, like me, like during the European working day. If you see that, can you ping me on Telegram and maybe grab a screenshot of it and send it to me on
It's
Telegram?
just a normal box that says it.
Yeah,
But is there not a little details button?
No
It don't
details
give you
button.
nothing. It don't give me nothing to read.
No, me
but
neither.
It has a,
Me neither.
It
There's
just
no
has a button to
details.
send bug report.
Yeah.
Send me screenshots. Send me screenshots.
You will get them.
Well, if I
Be
could make a
careful what you wish
suggestion,
for. You will get them.
Popey, you really know what this box looks like.
Popey, if I could make a suggestion, I would. I mean, I would like, obviously seeing a video would be great, like a recorded video, but I think the live thing works out awesome just because it allows people to see when there is problems. So you can make a tutorial on how to report a bug, but if I run into something that is out of the scope of that tutorial, like I go to click this button and it doesn't work, go to click this button and it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, then I'm kind of lost. But if you do it live, you get to see that, and that's what you got to see with the testing.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I totally meant do it live. I didn't mean a pre-recorded video. So yeah, I'm one of the problems with doing a live thing is they can end up being quite long, and if you've got like a nugget in the middle of how to file a bug that's really useful, people have to wade through hours of me rambling and booting ISOs until they get to the true nugget of information. Maybe what I need to do is do a live thing and then cut out a chunk and republish that as a separate video, or put a time code in or something. I don't know. Suggestions welcome.
But just so that you know, it isn't a chore sitting there watching you do your videos, because you have such a passion, and that shines through.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Popey, like you rambling on doesn't bother me one bit.
Very kind. Very kind.
It's not rambling. It's storytelling. It's a very nice storytelling. It's got a nice voice. You can turn it up in the kitchen. Nobody minds. It's really nice.
Yeah, I'll try not.
One thing I'd like to ask Alan is regarding the bug reports. You know, a lot of people don't like sending bug reports. They don't know how. They don't look into it. Do you think it's the fact that so many projects have different ways of going about reporting bugs that's the problem? There's no unified way.
Yeah,
that's standardized.
That's certainly a problem, especially when some projects have really brutal bug reporting systems, like the Debian one, where you have to actually send an email. is pretty brutal. And Launchpad hasn't had a UI refresh for
30 years.
Yeah, and it needs one, and I understand it's going to get one soon. So
Nice.
That's good. Whereas other projects put it on GitHub, and some people use Bugzilla. And yes, I totally agree with you. So I can really. So what I would talk about on a live stream is how you file bugs against Ubuntu projects, but some of them will be upstream projects. So maybe if I'm testing out Kubuntu and there's a problem in KDE, I'll probably skip Launchpad and just go straight to the KDE bug tracker, because I know this stuff is an upstream bug, and so I can actually show some of the other bug trackers out there because I know how to use them, and I've got logins on most of them.
Well, the other thing too is, Alan, just that specific point, knowing, where to file this bug. Is it a Ubuntu problem? Is it a GNOME problem? Is it a whatever, an extension problem? That's what people don't always know.
Yeah, and one of the problems we have is people, like, if you tell them file a bug in Launchpad, because that's our Ubuntu bug tracker, right? And then you file a bug, and someone replies and says, "Oh, that's an upstream bug. We don't actually modify that package. You're going to need to file a bug somewhere else." That frustrates people just as much because they've just spent their time creating a bug report, and now you're telling them they've got to do the whole thing all over again in a completely separate bug tracker and create a new account on another system. That can wind people up as well.
One thing I don't get is, like, everybody that writes a program, piece of software, and it's in the repos probably writes a man page. Why isn't there a bug page? Like an app I can open up and immediately file a bug report for any program the way I can read a man page for any program.
This is an ant. This is a mosquito.
We used to have that in Ubuntu years and years and years ago, right back at the beginning. Every desktop app that in Ubuntu, under the help menu, you got help about, there was help report a bug. And if you chose that menu option, it would take you to the right place for that application. But that meant we were patching every single application that we were delivering. And that became onerous for us to do. And so we stopped doing that. But I have ideas for how we can make this better. Watch this space.
Okay.
Very nice.
Awesome.
All right. So we have to discuss an issue that GNOME is actually facing, and that is the patent battle that they are currently in. I don't know all of the details, like the down to the right words details on it. So if anybody does know that and can explain it exactly, I would greatly appreciate it.
From what I've read, the bottom line is that they are trying to say that they own the patent for transferring any media information from a phone to a device. So
I know it has to do with Shotwell, right?
Yes, but it's that the actual patent and why they're digging it at Shotwell is any application that transfers information from one location via whatever means to a PC, they have patented that transaction. So the answer is, why aren't they suing Samsung? Why aren't they suing OnePlus phone company? Why aren't they suing Huawei? Because every single why aren't they suing Apple? Because every single mobile phone out there is infringing their alleged patent. They've chosen GNOME because they think it's small. They think they can attack it. And once they get case law, they will then be able to cite against these bigger companies. Hey, look, we've just won this case law. It's been proven that this is ours. Come on, guys, cough up. It's shocking.
Yeah, the patent trolls, they don't go after Samsung and Huawei because they're going to fight it. It's going to be tied up in court for years, and it's going to cost them millions. Patent trolls go after people that just settle. That's who they go after.
Well, apparently GNOME is not going to just settle.
Yeah.
So they are going to fight this, which is awesome. And
they do have a donate page.
Yes.
You are right, Dan.
Yes.
We're going to post a link for the donate page, and
I have it.
They need basically our help. So if people ask, how can I help? How can I help? This is a time where each one of us could help. The whole Linux cause, the whole open source cause, to send a message basically to say this is not going to, you're not going to win this if you continually try this, to the patent trolls. So I would suggest everybody go to the link and help them out with whatever you can.
I've just put the link in YouTube. Thank you, Sleepy, for putting it in our chat.
Wow, it's the
they're
same
looking
link
for about $125,000 right now too.
Yeah,
so
they're at $78,000 at the moment.
Right.
Mhm. I put the link in there too that lets you donate via PayPal because the one they had on the articles didn't have PayPal support.
Very nice, Jill. Very nice.
Mhm.
All right. Anybody want to mention anything about that before we move on? Okay. All right. So Jason Evangelo put out an article this past week about marketing, basically talking about what we need to do to make change. And two things, obviously Linux marketing, and he referenced not only the Microsoft video, but also the latest Deepin video about their launcher. And I have to say, it was a really slick looking video, something I wish that the Linux community could put out. But obviously, this was a well-designed video as far as it was a professional looking video. It wasn't just something that you found on Big Daddy Linux channel. And also, the number two thing was to change the stigma that surrounds Linux, where you and I and everybody here knows that you don't have to, if you don't want to, drop to a terminal anymore. You don't have to do these things that Linux had branded into people's minds that you had to do years ago. We know that, but the general public doesn't know. And even people that have tried it once years ago still have that idea, oh, do I still have to install it through a terminal? That type of stigma that comes along with Linux needs to change. So, he put out there about, he mentioned a Desktop Linux Alliance, and that is basically having a section of people that are professionals who market Linux and to create things that are going to make Linux look like it is a competitor in the modern operating system world. So, what do you guys think about this?
I think it's fantastic. I think Linux desktop needs that alliance. In the server side of things, they are aligned in a lot of ways, and over on the desktop side, we just don't have that. And I think it's brilliant. I really do. I think we should all support that as much as possible. Because like you said, we don't need the terminal. I mean, I love the terminal, but yeah, it's in that people need to become aware of just how far Linux desktop has come, because it has come a long way in just the past year, 2 years, 3 years. And yeah, I think it's great.
I think we're starting to see a lot of things when it comes to, for instance, the Linux App Summit is helping bring light to applications like Flatpak snaps and app images. So stuff like that is coming through, and it's helping make the desktop look better too.
And, I agree with you, Mitchell, what you said, because I think there was a dismissiveness, if that's even a word, when you think about how people looked at Linux before. And the funny thing is I had mentioned to Rocco recently a discussion about the terminal and things like that. I can't count on one hand how many times I think I was ever in the terminal in Windows. And when you get into Linux, I find myself wanting to be in there. So I think it's, if you have the ease of knowing that, hey, I can just load it, throw an ISO on the machine, boom, get it running, whatever. And then naturally you find the terminal and you want to do more in it. That's probably a better solution or a better way to approach it than people having the perception that they need it to be able to run it.
They don't need it, really. I use the terminal very little, except for some extreme things you need to do to make things work. Other than that, I use all the GUI stuff because this is the 21st century. You don't need the terminal to use an operating system. It can't be that way.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. I don't think that people, that's what the discussion is here, is that they thought, early days, they keep thinking back to when you did need it to a point. Now it's more a desire.
sometimes it's just, like I try to do like Dan, I use all the different graphical interfaces. I much prefer it because it's right there. I don't have to think, oh, what's this command? What's that command? What do I go back to my little list of oddball commands? But I will use a terminal. I'm obviously not afraid to use it, but I think most of the time I can do everything I need to do without ever going into the terminal. So, and people don't realize that it is like that. They go, what, Linux? You mean you're going to have to type? It's all that terminal stuff, or it's all that text stuff. No, it's not. And then I show them and they're like, no, it's only because you know what you're doing. But I think, people have to start to realize you don't have to do everything in the terminal.
But that's how far we've come. Go ahead, Zeb.
I was going to say, maybe somebody needs to do that then as a promotional video, somewhat like the Deepin company has done for their launcher, which I must say is exceptionally slick looking.
Yes,
Somebody maybe just needs to do a quick 15-minute, video on this is your basic Ubuntu desktop. When you want to update it, you do this, and it's just literally showing them click, click, click. If you want to start your browser, you go click, click. If you want to do this, you go, and you just show everybody that it is a click interface. And what would be really important is for that whole video, never mention the terminal, never show the terminal, just show people that they can click and play, and it works.
Well, I think one of the things that Jason was proposing was not just making a video, because what he was trying to put across was that it needs to be professional, and it needs to look as professional as the Microsoft video, as the Deepin video. So he was proposing that that the Linux community, basically the Desktop Alliance thing, would fund actual paid people that are professionals to make videos like this, and maybe be funded by companies like GNOME, KDE, System 76, Canonical,
Blue Systems,
right? Not just a community video, because although the community is great, the quality of those videos are not the same. Professional level quality videos.
And the only problem with that is I've just literally clicked on the we need to create Voltron, and I'm thinking, why do we need Anime? What? Okay, I get that it's professional and it looks good, but it's a game, and that for me would sort of tend to make people think, is Linux serious, or is it just a gaming platform? Or was that just an example of a quality type web page that needs to promote Linux?
Yeah.
I just don't get why he chose Voltron or whatever it was called.
I think it's actually a very great idea to have professionals come in and make the video, because, like you said, that we have this community videos, but that doesn't appeal to everyone. We need to have reach a broader audience, and because what we do doesn't appeal to everyone, but having something professionally made may appeal to people that otherwise would not be interested in Linux. And to what Joe was saying in terms of the terminal, I think it's good to show people that they don't need the terminal, but it's another tool. It's there if they want to explore it.
Leave the terminal to the system admins.
So I have some opinions on this article.
Do it.
I think Jason means well, but I think he's a little naive here in thinking that all these companies are just going to get together in order to promote inverted commas desktop Linux, right? If you're going to get a professional organization to make videos, and I can guarantee most of the people on that list that I can see the companies have at some time or another in the past engaged with a professional video making company for some reason. I know we have, IBM definitely have, and I know Dell do. I don't know about System 76, DigitalOcean, or Star Labs. Probably not Star Labs, but the others I would imagine have at some point done something with a professional video creation company. It's expensive, really expensive. And you need to, there's a couple of things that aren't really covered in here. One is, who's the target audience and what's the return on that investment? If we chuck a couple of million into the pot and make a video, who are we aiming that at? Where is this video going to air? Is it going to be just an Instagram quick video that's going to scroll off everyone's social feeds after a week and everyone's going to forget all about it? Are we going to put this as pre-roll advertising in tech videos on YouTube, which people will block with ad block? Or is it going to go, are you expecting this to go on TV? Are these radio adverts? What markets are you going to hit? It gets incredibly expensive very quickly. And if we're going to put a pile of money in, we've got to know, well, what are we going to get back for that money? Now, some might say, well, you should do it for the good of desktop Linux, which is the message I'm getting from Jason's article. And that's all very well and good. But we've been working for 15 years, putting money, paying hundreds of people to make desktop Linux good, right? Arguably, we've already done that. What are we going to get back if we pay this money into a pot and advertise desktop Linux? And that doesn't even step into the realm of, these are competing organizations. Dell are probably not going to want to put in some money to advertise System 76 laptops. They're direct competitor. And vice versa. So I think it's a little naive. I mean, I like the idea of there being better marketing, more professional videos. And indeed, I get cited in this article because I came up with an idea 18 months ago to do exactly this, but community organized. I think it's a nice idea, but I think if you think about the bigger picture, I don't think it can happen for desktop Linux. The one final thing, the target market, who are you targeting here? Are you targeting normal mom and pop users, or are you targeting developers? Because predominantly, the people who run Linux on the desktop are developers, not normals, right? Predominantly, statistically. Do you want to target normal users, in which case you need to make the desktop a lot more polished for them, because developers are a lot more tolerant of the jankiness and the fact they have to use the terminal than a normal person would be. Normal person would buy a laptop, as Adam Grubb mentioned a few weeks ago. A normal person, if they bought a laptop and it didn't work properly, they'd take it back. So advertising at those people, you're going to get a lot of returned laptops. Is my expectation.
I don't disagree with.
What we're experiencing over here is that Windows is mutating into something people don't like, and they are looking for an alternative, and Linux fits that niche right there.
For some, sure.
The main thing that I've seen and thought about this a little bit, one, we're dealing with a platform that is intended for a multi-user environment, and the PC is definitely not a multi-user environment, so it's kind of an overkill. And that's really kind of what the Windows has always been focused, and Mac OS has always been focused on the single user. And so that's why the GUI has taken such hold, and plus also it takes a lot of the esoteric and derivative out of having to type in long commands and remember different switches and stuff like that. But the major thing is none of the major people are looking at the home market. They're looking at the enterprise market because that's where they're going to sell. The home market is such a small percentage. And so the things that are being presented on the PC, as far as development and software and what have you, is something that is keyed off of what's going on in the industry in an enterprise environment. And until we come up with something that would be comparable to like a directory services or a direct control over the desktop, like group policy editors, stuff like that, you're not going to see. There isn't going to be any way that we're going to have Linux as a desktop break into the market or be able to overtake the market. Windows 10 is the last Windows kernel that is going to be produced. Windows 11, if there's such an animal, is going to be more of an environment. And it's probably going to have a base like Linux in there, but it's going to be a Microsoft version of Linux. It's not going to be the same kernel that we know and love.
JJ, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, so I sort of wanted to go a little bit different with regards to the marketing aspect, with regards to many tech companies that had some bad times in the past, Apple and IBM, and some of their marketing campaigns are giving people more mind share. And I think that's what Jason Evangel's aiming at, trying to get more mind share. And with experiments such as Watson, that sort of put IBM sort of in the mainstream again, post IBM compatible PCs. So, I mean, maybe if there was like a Linux group that were to do like some sort of big experiment that could, I don't know, reach out to give more mindshare to you, to not just normals, but maybe those in the IT sector or those pursuing an IT degree or maybe cybersecurity.
Well, look, I like the idea of what he's talking about. I think it's awesome, and it's something that I've been saying for a while, that we need, better things. Again, when Microsoft's video came out, it was awesome. It made the terminal look awesome. How can you make the terminal look awesome? And yet they did. And that's what we need for Linux. I love that idea. I just, in trying to work out through your mind how that would work out, and then realizing that, at the end of the day, there's only so much resource. There's only so much time for people to put into it. It is a hard situation. There is no easy answer. There is no, well, we just do this. It's something that I wish there was an easy answer for, but again, going back to, it all comes down to the money. And Opie, you said, I mean, what are you going to get out of it? Companies like Canonical, like Dell, like all of them, System 76, they're not going to put in money unless they know they're going to get something out of that. And I don't blame them for that. So it's not an easy answer.
And also, which distro would you use, and what base would you use, and which desktop environment would you use for the video as well?
Yeah,
oh, that's easy. OpenSUSE, Tumbleweed, Plasma.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
fine.
Obviously.
Also, there's also conflict between marketers and the actual product. Sometimes marketers can go into making a product, embellished descriptions that may make it bigger than what it is.
Right. Well, we definitely don't want that, and that's part of the stigma with that marketing word. But Eric, go ahead.
So I don't disagree with anything that Alan said, and I also don't believe that any corporation is going to put money into this, because frankly, they're not going to get anything back. And if there's no return on investment, they're just not going to do it. And like Alan said, it's just going to be a lot of money. So, okay, Microsoft puts some money behind it because they have, billions of dollars to do that. It's not going to hurt them. They don't care. They have the people on staff. It's not like that they go hire someone. So for them, that was probably a couple people doing a fun side project that just happened to be really good at that sort of thing. So let's just work off the premise that this is a grassroots thing, is like it's always been. If people care about getting desktop Linux out there, then it's up to us as a community. So I have a question for Jill, as someone who does this sort of work. When you look at that video, that terminal video, like what's involved with that? I mean, you have all the tools, you have all the skills. And I'm not saying like, you would do it, but I'm just saying like, what would it take for a normal person to, the premise that the quality of videos, and I will say in general, yeah, if you're just streaming like a distro review, if you're just like, there's no intent to make it polished. But I think there are a lot of people in the Linux community. I think of like Linux Experiment and some other people that make super high quality videos, and like they have the skills to do that kind of stuff. So Jill, what's behind doing something like a little higher?
Yeah, you need a team of artists, definitely. And yeah, it's you need, like Popey was saying, a company that's willing to spend a lot of money. And that is the problem. But I would be happy to do some videos with someone. In fact, my husband in chat suggested who's poised for this is the Linux Foundation. They already do beautiful videos of all their events.
The problem with
And
Linux Foundation is they're a trade body, and they only care about
yes,
things
yeah,
that the fund them care about, and those
yeah,
only care about cloud. They don't care
yeah.
about.
They don't care about desktop. Yeah, except for as far as AI is concerned in development.
Right.
So
And reaching out to community people, I
Mhm.
don't know if you noticed 2 or 3 months ago, Nick, the Linux Experiment, made a video about the fact that we now ship the NVIDIA driver on the Ubuntu ISO. And I instigated that. I contacted Nick and said, hey, we've got this thing. You might want to make a video about it. I don't think anyone else has noticed this, but here's something that might be original content for you to create. And I wrote a script for him and said,
Oh.
here are some words, and just gave it to him, and he made a video. And it looked great, better than anything I could have done.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, if you make it and you publish it on your platform, on your YouTube channel, I don't want to put it on my channel. You will get the clicks, you'll get the ad revenue. You put it on your channel, and we will drive people towards that video by sharing it on the Ubuntu social media. Now, some would say, well, you should have paid him for that video. I would have, if I had money, that would have been on offer. He could have said no and said, no, I need payment for this, but he was looking for content, and so he was happy to make it. And I completely understand if people aren't willing to do it for nothing. That's perfectly reasonable. But if we've got people in the community who are willing to create
Yeah,
content
donate time. Yeah.
and donate time and put it on their own channel, that's great. But you do need I think it's difficult, as other people have said, and I've said before, I think it's difficult to do that kind of thing cross distro for
Yeah.
exactly the reason, which desktop would it be, which distribution, and that you would instantly get tons of arguments about which is the right one and the wrong one. You can't win that one, unfortunately. I'm
Yeah.
afraid.
Yeah, Eric, it was a really good question because I've thought about it myself. I could do a video, but I need millions of dollars to do commercial spots, to put in, pre-rolls and lower thirds and that whole thing.
Right.
So
If you
let me
make a
ask you.
video like that and you don't
Yeah.
you don't get it out in front of people, then there's no point in doing it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So
it's hard.
without pinpointing exactly, roughly, how much, if a company, Microsoft did it with a few people of their own, but if you paid a company to do a video like that, how much would it?
It can start for if you're doing like commercials, you're starting at several $100,000.
Wow.
Yeah. And then if it's a movie, at a trailer at a theater, that's millions. So, yeah.
Okay, so moving on.
Isn't the Super Bowl advert? I know it's a ridiculous
Yes.
extreme, but isn't that several hundred millions of dollars to get that
Yes.
Super
Yeah.
Bowl halftime
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah, if
It's
we
a
had a
ridiculous amount.
I can make a Super Bowl spot, but it would cost me $300,000 on the lowest, and then like 30 million on the highest.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to aim at Super Bowl level
But
just yet.
it's ridiculous when we think about it in those terms, but think about it in terms of what is their return on investment for that money spent, because I
Yeah.
guarantee you it's more than they spent.
Right. All right. Anybody got anything really quick before we close this out?
No.
All right.
We can talk about OggCamp that Alan and I joined.
You forgot to
next week.
forgot
Next-
to
oh, don't worry about it.
remind
No,
me,
no, no.
dude.
We'll do it. No. We'll do it. We'll do it next week. It's not a problem. Just I had a fantastic time there. It was really, really enjoyable.
Speaking of a
Can't wait.
conference, I won't be here next weekend because I'll be in Columbus for Ohio Linux Fest.
Wonderful.
Nice.
Great, Tyler.
Well, why don't you just join us from there, dude? Report live. Okay, maybe not.
Depends on how the weekend goes. I think by later in the night, I'll probably be heading back to Louisville. So,
all right.
I remember Alan Pope did that.
At scale.
Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Walked
he
around
did.
the show floor from scale.
Yeah.
I have no idea what the audio was like from it. It was probably atrocious, but yeah, it was good fun.
All right, that's going to be it for us. Deb, last word?
Just that I really enjoy being here with you guys and girls every week. I know it's a bit of a cliche of Eric's and mine, but it is the highlight of my week. And long may it continue. Thank you very much, Rocco.
Nate.
Hey, thanks again for having me and letting me open my mouth in front of all of you people and chat about all the nerdy things I enjoy. If you're into it, DLN Extend, it's coming out. Well, actually, it's out now, but next episode will be coming out in the next day or two, and I'm really excited about it. It'll be good fun.
One thing I didn't hear was, do you guys have a release day?
We were shooting.
I don't think we have an official release day yet.
We don't have an official day. We had talked about Fridays making sense because if you think about all the content when it comes out, we have to get it, consume it, write up some notes, talk about it, record our stuff. And so we thought, Friday's probably the earliest we can get it. If we can get it out before the next DL, which they do on Sundays, that would be ideal. So Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, just this is all housekeeping. We shouldn't really be doing it here, but let's not forget that Michael puts his episodes out Thursdays. So yours comes out Friday. They might think you've talked about the Thursday one. So chat offline about it. Yeah.
You guys put a link in the chat.
We'll get it. It's it's like installing a Gen 2 or something. It takes a while to really get it working. So we'll get to it.
All right, Derek, last word.
Just wanted to remind people that we definitely need to get as many donations as possible for GNOME.
Yeah.
But aside from that, you have a good week. Thank you for having me again, Rocco.
Jill, last word.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here on Default Biddle.
Right? It was awesome.
Yay. And the Linux Gamecast community, they've been messaging me. So
they miss you.
Yeah. But this has been awesome. And so, but I'll try and make it on the Default Biddle as often as I can.
Very
Thank
nice.
you, Rocco.
Good.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep, it was good having you, Jill. Bash, last word.
Thanks for the stream as usual, and we will see what next week has in store.
Peter, last word.
I love being here with my online lug. It's awesome to be here, and Solus remains the greatest.
I love it. This guy sticks with Solus no matter what. I love it.
What do you mean? No, there's nothing changed.
Oh, we love you, Mid Spider.
No matter what.
Solus.
Mitchell, last word.
Thank you, Rocco. Thank you very much. I really appreciate being here. This is a lot of fun. It means a lot to me. This whole community means a lot to me. And I look forward to Ubuntu. Really look forward to Ubuntu.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. It's good having you, Mitchell. Tony, last word.
Yeah, as usual, I just want to thank you, Rocco, for doing this. I really look forward to it every week. Same as Zeb said, it is my highlight of the week. Ubuntu is installed on the laptop and updated.
Jeez,
I knew it. I knew he was going to do it.
I couldn't resist.
I knew there was a reason why it's so quiet tonight.
Nice, Tony.
Alan, while you're here, can I just pinch a couple of seconds to ask you a quick question?
You can ask.
Right. I installed the 1910 version on the main machine when it first came out to try it. And I come up with one problem. it wanted to do a firmware update of a Logitech universal not remote dongle thing.
Unifying receiver, yeah.
That's it. And I didn't do it because I've done it before with Ubuntu previously on an older version, and it messed up the keyboard completely.
Oh dear.
Is it safe to do it this time? I'm putting you on the spot, sorry.
I have no idea, but I would assume yes.
And yeah, I didn't
Do
want to
it.
mess the keyboard up again.
What does it do? Does it revert back to some other keyboard layout?
No, what it does, it tries to update the firmware. Last time it got so far and then it just failed, and then the keyboard would no longer work. I had to take it into a store, and because it was still under warranty, I didn't tell them what had actually happened, and they just replaced it.
It sounds like something that should be discussed on the Logitech forums, I think. I don't think this is an Ubuntu thing. I think this is a Logitech firmware thing.
Right,
So
okay.
I would look for your model of keyboard and the firmware revision number, which should be in Firmware Updater. And I would jump on the Logitech forums and check before you do it, see if anyone else has done it. And
Yeah,
see if
I just didn't want to screw it up. Sorry, am I allowed to say that?
Yes.
Oh, you did.
Okay. Sorry to take over, Rocco. I'll be quiet now.
All good, Tony. Joe, last word.
Well, as always, again, thanks again for a fabulous night. I'm going to date myself a little bit. As they used to say in Hollywood, that's another show going into the can. So this was a really fun night. I am going to keep asking as much as I can think about it. You know, I know that it's been referenced about a meetup sometime. I really, we talk about trying to help out monetarily or whatever. This is something we can do. And I really would love to just someday try to do that. When I say someday, I'm not talking years off. I would love to see it hopefully in the next year or so, but to see as many of us to get together, because I just think it's getting to be way past due for us to finally put skin on skin handshakes together and stuff like that, or hugs or however. So, and by the way, Zeb, I am a hugger too. So had I had the opportunity, they got a big bear hug for me too. So, but thank you again. Have a great week, everybody. See you next week.
Thanks, Joe. Eric, last word.
Joe, I'll meet you at Pastry Art whenever you're here. No problem.
There you go.
Jill, thank you for playing hooky and getting in trouble with your team. Mitchell, great to see you here.
Yeah.
We always get to chat, and I love to see put a face behind the name. So great to see everybody here. This, like Zeb said, I mean, this is my outlet, and you are my people. So everybody have a great week, and thanks for joining and having such a great conversation.
Tyler, last word.
Thanks for the show. I will try Ubuntu throughout the next week when I get time. I will not be on next week's show due to being at Ohio Linux Fest. So, and regarding the meetup, Joe, Southeast Linux Fest was a fantastic time. Got to meet up with quite a few people in here. So,
And you're not that, my sister-in-law lives across the river from Louisville too, and I don't get down to see her enough. So you're not that
I'll be in Louisville next Wednesday and Thursday. So
We're gonna have to put
We're
gonna have to put a vote up in the discourse forums to get a central location for a meetup.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Perfect.
London sounds good.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And, Kansas City.
Are you buying the tickets?
Kansas City is pretty central. Just saying.
All right, Dan. Kelly.
Chicago's not bad.
This week I took a couple big dives. I signed up over at Discourse so I could be part of you guys over in that area. And then I got on Telegram so I can get a hold of the Destination Linux people and the Big Daddy people and chat with them. With that said, the GNOME issue, if you can donate, please donate. Even though if you don't like their vanilla desktop, a lot of desktops have been forked and created from GNOME. So keep that in mind, as you're using your favorite desktop. Is it a piece of GNOME? So with that said, next.
Colin, last word.
Yes, it's always great to be here. Always enjoy my time here at Big Daddy Linux Live. Looking forward to trying Ubuntu this week, so might need a link to the bug report. Thanks, Popey. Hopefully we don't need it, actually. So looking forward to trying ZFS or ZFS or ZFS or just some FS. See how we go with
I
that.
like Zed.
Well, Zed, good one. Anyway, that's me done.
Popey, last word.
Thanks for having me. And yes, I will be doing more of these. I've actually got a week vacation now. So
Nice.
I'll probably do them during my vacation because I'm weird like that. So if you want to see more of them, I've just posted my silly YouTube channel. If you want to see more of those daft videos detailing how to test and file bugs and everything Ubuntu, I'll do a few live streams. I'll put them in the schedule so that people can cancel their haircut and not go out with their wife so they can sit in and watch me Linux. Totally.
And then
Thanks,
we
everyone.
can pin them in the Telegram group.
Oh, thank you.
All right, Daniel, last word.
Yeah, I just want to say, man, I love hanging out with all you guys, and it's great to be back after a hiatus, and I'm gonna give Ubuntu a good run this week, so we'll see what happens. I have high hopes.
Paul, last word.
Yeah, thanks everybody. I can't wait for the Eric and Nate podcast. And to all you patent trolls out there, go get bent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got
Go
that
donate,
here.
That's
everyone.
right.
Steve, last word.
All right, I want to thank you, Rocco, and everybody here for their support. Mitchell, great seeing your face, as Eric said. Thanks for always joining. Jill, you've said some great things. Look forward to Eric and Nate. Both great guys, very great guys. It's just great
Yay.
being part of any of you guys. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right, Chris, last word.
About the only thing that I wanted to say was something came to mind when Alan was talking about the last minute changes going in. It's something my boss always tells me whenever I go to him complain about something wrong on a desktop that I can't resolve. And it's why are you worried and afraid to make of breaking something? It gives you a chance to fix it. So, it's like the only way you're going to be able to get any further is if you do accidentally break something, go in and fix it. So, yeah.
All right, Vince, last word.
Thanks, Rocco. I think the discussion tonight was just fantastic. I think you just raised it to another level. Love you guys. If I could borrow something from this week's Linux Spotlight with what Michael Hall said, if you start with the people, everything else will follow. I thought that was just a great little gesture. Can I suggest Singapore as the meetup?
You can suggest it. I don't know if it would win out, but you can suggest
Awesome.
it.
Awesome, Vin.
We might have to put together a little fundraiser.
Yep.
Yeah.
Eris, last word.
Thank you very much for the stream. Missed most of the stream, unfortunately. I look forward to watching it back, and I guess looking forward to trying out Ubuntu. I installed it already. I'll just pop it into my other partition.
Nice.
Nice.
JJ, last word.
All right, so I know it's been a long time since you've seen me, so I really do appreciate what you for the stream, Rocco. Also, want to point out that there's Discord, bigdaddylinux.com/Discord, and as for the post show for those who want to discuss late into the night. I've been busy with school lately, so that's why I haven't been on the shows lately. But hopefully, once this semester turns around, I can participate during the break part. Also, if we can't do mainstream marketing, why not consider guerrilla marketing?
That's the JJ we know and love. So
Door-to-door marketing.
Yeah.
But,
cool.
You definitely should join us on this show here, because we not only talk here on the live show, but then we, after the recording stops, we all have a good chat for another long time. And then we end up on Discord, or some of us end up on Discord afterwards to even talk longer. So you could join us if you like. I'd like to again thank the devs for Netrunner for all of their work that they've done, and hopefully we'll be able to do from some of the feedback that we. Definitely check out the GNOME Foundation donation page. They need our help, and it's in our best interest to help them out. And the last thing I want to say
before you go, I was going to say, who's on Spotlight next week?
Well, that brings me to the last thing on the page, Zeb. And
excellent.
This week we talked to Michael Hall, and he is an awesome community member that cares about the community. And you can tell from everything that he has done and contributed, and just his whole attitude towards how he works. So definitely check that out. This coming Wednesday at 6 a.m., we're going to talk to our friend Joe Panico. He is going to be on the Linux Spotlight. And
I hope your ratings don't tank.
you will get to hear his backstory, how he got into Linux, and everything else in it.
Awesome.
Thank you. It was fun.
It was.
Awesome,
It was a
Joe.
great episode.
Yay.
That's going to wrap it up. That's going to do it for us until next week. We are trying Ubuntu 19.10 this week for the Distro Challenge. If you want to talk about it, join us next Saturday. Until then, long live Linux.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Great, healthy week.
See yous.
Bye-bye.
See yous.